A very good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of SEVA, the Social Work Students Forum, Department of Social Work Aiden, Madras Christian College, I welcome you all to the session 2, level 2 of the workshop, The Catharsis of Grief. Without further ado, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. We are beginning from whatever we have stopped yesterday. I'll just we'll just recap the session. Someone who can help me out in recapping who attended the session yesterday. Some volunteers.
Sir, we talked about types of grief and empathy fatigue.
Okay. So we were trying to see yesterday through our particular session how grief, what grief, and through practical, a few of the examples we were looking into different angles to see that what exactly the grief is and grief can cause, and what are the major theories and other things that is in connection with the grief reactions and uh, grief in the process of grief and other things. What are the major components of how the process of grief. But today, as you all expect, I know it, as you are all are mostly dealing with the students in the universities or maybe in your department, concerned departments. Uh, Therefore, today we will be focusing fully on practical aspects of dealing with these issues in day-to-day life, especially in context of a pandemic. Let's see. Um, we are expecting, as you have already mentioned, and also, I think initial, inauguration session, it was also mentioned that students were facing grief, students were facing the issues due to pandemic. A lot of departments, including irrespective of a particular department which facilitated this particular program today, are being in connection with these students who have been facing with the um, different stress and also grief. Grief not maybe directly associated with the death and bereavement of a death of a person who was immediately connected to the home, rather maybe a relative, close ones, friends, or who are maybe the personalities, who are maybe the persons. Okay, today through this session, I will be trying to give some insights into how exactly are we going to, in the ground level, how are we going to, how can we do it, how can we assess, how can we get through their grief, how can we assist them. Definitely, as I told you yesterday, we are not experts. We are not exclusively those are the persons who have been responsible for grief ventilation or grief alleviation. Alleviation of grief is not an easiest task, as I have already mentioned yesterday, because it is interlinked with a lot of cultural and sociological aspects. Grief has its own phases of closure. A closure is easy in grief, as it is a natural process occurring. But sometimes grief to be addressed, as we have already seen yesterday, sometimes the grief to be addressed, if the grief exceeds beyond the limit of beyond a particular phase, which cause the human issues in the human life and day-to-day management of a person's personal life. Let's see through this chapter, through this presentation, what I try, these are my major content through which I will be making a sub journey. Anybody can interfere in any time of my presentation today, because it's more of practical aspects. Therefore, I welcome, without even a closure of a ppt, you can continuously ask me the questions. Therefore, I can clarify and go ahead, rather than clarifying things at the end, because these are more of practically oriented and technically fit sounding. But mostly this will be a very lighter session than comparing to those of the yesterday. Uh, Hopefully, you will come up with the questions and queries in between, and any clarifications, any questions are welcomed in between. I will be happy to share my views. Maybe if I cannot, and we will together sort it out the issues. Okay, then. Yeah. We will see. We will see the first, as in the first one, manifestations of a normal grief. It's a normal grief is not something which is an immediate task for any one of us to address it together. As the attachment theory says, attachment comes from the need for safety and security. When the attachment figures disappear or it is threatened, response might be intense and the anxiety level and emotional protest will definitely happen. This is the reason Bowley concluded that there are good biological reasons for every separation to be responded to be automatic, intensified ways and aggressive behavior. Attachment is the only theory that is going in sound with why grief is happening. Because grief can happen only when an attached figure is moving out of her. Am I audible to everybody? Or something that I just make a blab?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yeah, audible. My slide is, um, presentation is also visible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, right, fine, thank you. Yeah, the attachment theory is the one which one of the major theories that is in connection with the grief, because we cannot grieve when we are not attached to a person. Grief happens to be, obviously we will have some issues. Any person who attend the burial function may have some sort of sadness, a face of unhappiness, a face of tearing, tears that comes out of the eyes. But not all the people grieve. Grief happens after later phases of not the later phases of mourning, right? Therefore, mourning after the mourning, if grief occurs, which means the attachment is greater to that particular person. So the manifestations are normal. Let's see what are the manifestations of normal grief. There are feelings, physical sensations, cognitive issues, and behaviors. We'll see one by one what are they. First one, feelings. In normal situations, the feelings may be like sadness. It's very common in feelings of. So why am I putting this kind of this presentation in front of you today is nothing but, as a student comes to your department, as a person, maybe student or a client comes to your department or in front of you as a person who has taken training of grief related issues, how to address the grief for the last few days of our workshop. The initial task of every one of us is nothing but assessment of the situation. Therefore, we should know whether the grief is normal or abnormal. If the grief is normal, then what are the manifestations of grief? Very first thing I have already told you, it's feelings. And what are the feelings can normally happens in a normal grief? One, feelings of sadness. Most common feelings of feelings in the bereaved people, often manifested with crying. Anger is another one, and it also comes from two sources: from the sense of frustration, that there are nothing that one can prevent death. Next, from the kind of regressive experience that after loss of clause loss of a clause one. Then, usually it also will be followed by guilt and self-reproach. Usually, in the guilt usually happens to be when a person's that. Sometimes you must have heard or seen. I the people, whenever we witness, whenever we see, whenever we visit the families where the death happened to be, um, they cry aloud saying that. Yeah, what are the usual expressions that we see? Can somebody speak it out one? What are the usual usual way of conversation or way of uh, cries followed by the conversation when we visit our relatives who is dead? Am I sounding better? Is my question clear? What are the usual verbatim that we usually hear when we visit a person's visit a family where a person is dead?
So you'll basically console them, and then
Console. No,
when
I'm not talking about what are you going to do, but what are the verbatism that they speak to us. It it can be crying.
Sir,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, sir. I think they'll express their anger, sir. They
They
sometimes people
express
would
their
tend to get anger.
anger. Express their anger. Okay, first one is anger, and
The
second one,
questioning condition. Why it happened to me? Why
why,
it is.
why it happened to me? This question of why it happened to me, why it happened to me, why it happened to my family, why it happened to my relatives, why it happened to my close one. I have been very much attached to this particular person, but why? Why is the question? I have not done any crime. I have not done any sort of mistake. Why has that happened to me? And next,
Like I don't know how I'm gonna manage without the particular person.
how am I going to manage without this particular person? Okay, next.
If only I could have done this, I could have saved or
I could have saved, exactly, exactly. I could have saved this life. I could have saved this life. He would not. He would have been okay. No, most cases we know that the person would not have been able to be saved, or we could not have been providing any sort of a relief to this particular person. But still they try. Still they wanted to. Still they want. They believe that this death could have been a preventable one. It could have been prevented. Though it is, we know that the things are irrational. Their verbatisms are irrational, but it's that irrational talk sometimes makes sense to them, right? So it's sometimes mostly such kind of a conversation comes out of their heart, just because they wanted to normalize things, and they wanted to make a self blame in such a way that I am the person who really caused the death for this particular person. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay, then we'll come across to anxiety is another important manifestations of normal grief. Survivors fear that they will not be able to take care of this. Well, this point was already being mentioned by one of you. How can I get go? How can I go ahead? How can I live my life? How can I live this life without this particular person's presence in my life? Or second, um, it's heightened sense of personal death awareness. Okay, next. Another important issue that will be important thing that we will be seeing in their life will be like loneliness, feeling frequently expressed by those who have lost spouses or those who used to close day-to-day relationship. So they immediately feel, if not this particular person, if I am not able to live with this particular person, how can I be able to enter into the space of this particular I mean, how can I have a life without this particular person? Where am I going to live? How am I going to live? How am I going to live a normal life? I will be the person completely lonely. And next, fatigue as well as helplessness. These are the things that usually happens to be in case of whatever we have. It's in case of feelings. Then coming to physical sensation. In normal grieving, we can also see there is a physical sensation such as tightness in chest and throat and dry mouth. Yesterday we have talked a few things about it. Oversensitivity of noise, which might even sometimes lead to acute stress and tensions. Might me even a person who has been exposed to the so-called so-called of migraine and all might feel it is noise level is severe enough to cause damages to them. Next, sense of depersonalization, breathlessness, and weakness in muscles and lack of energy. Sometimes they, even if they consume enough food, even if they have taken food immediately after, usually after the death, most persons after the separation, after the death, after a traumatic situation, people hesitate to eat, and even after having a complete energy, and that physical conditions are better, even then they might come up with the issues that they say, like I am feeling weakness in muscle, I'm not having energy, i don't have uh, I don't have any energy to come out with you, I cannot talk to you, such kind of things. Then we'll come across to this next one is in cognition. What are the normal grieving can impact? Disbelief. It's often the first thought that comes up to mind, especially if the death was a sudden. Uh, it's like a person cannot digest the fact that the person is no more. So it's otherwise called as a disbelief. Next, confusion. Many newly bereaved people say that they are thinking very confused, that difficulty in concentration. So difficulty in concentration is another important factor when it comes to the cognition in case of normal grief. Then preoccupation is another one. Preoccupations with obsession, thoughts about a disease. Sometimes preoccupations also may happen in intrusive thoughts of images of a deceased person, which is recurrently happening in a person's either in sleep cycles or in waking up cycles, which means day and night these kind of imageries appear in front of a person, even if he or she even if the person um, tries to come out of it. They say that I have these images of that particular person. When I go to the kitchen, I feel that here. I mean, that particular person is there. Maybe like they imagine this particular person's closeness in wherever the place which was very closely associated with them in just for example, if the bedroom, if the spouse, one of the spouses dead, the bedroom become a place where this person a person sometimes try to interact with this particular person, see this particular person sitting close to the bed, sitting close to the chair, or maybe while the person drives, the person feel that this particular person's presence is very close to the seat, near to them when driving happens to be. So this preoccupations is another important issues in the cognition. Then sense of presence, as I told you already, that in this grieving persons may think that deceased is somehow still in the current area, that's in time as well as in space, as I have already told you. Next, hallucination. Hallucinations, sometimes illusionary experiences occurring within the weeks of loss. They might find either visual or auditory kind of hallucination, but you cannot exactly rule out whether it is a hallucination, maybe kind of feeling hallucination. To establish it will take a long time as an independent entity of psychiatric illness. But still, however, they might be able to hear, they might feel kind of illusionary experiences, like they hear this particular person's voice, they see this particular person, they visualize this particular person. So these are the things which happens in cognition in normal grief. Next, in behaviors, what are the major problems that might occur? One, sleep disturbance, including difficulty in going to sleep. And even if the person sleeps, sometimes he or she, the person wakes up very early, and since then they might find it's very difficult in sleeping, and might even depend upon the medications in normal grieving situations even. This is a reason sometimes immediately after a death of a person, when a person collapses or when a person finds it so difficult, medication is suggestive. Then appetite disturbance can happen to be either overeating or undereating. In most cases, we see it's undereating, and undereating can cause even undereating is more frequently seen than overeating, unless the person is under severe depression or something like that. Then social withdrawal is another important one. They find it's. I remember a woman who came, who of course came for a therapy, whose husband was dead due to a collapse, and was finding it so difficult with bereavement, finding it difficult with the grief, and she had been finding it so difficult to meet the other people outside, as she feared that they might question her because they had already quarrels prior to the death of this particular person. And she was telling that I couldn't confront with him, I couldn't rectify my mistake before which he departed from me. I could have at least asked sorry. Yeah, this kind of and then she chose to be alone. She never want to meet anybody. As soon as she meets somebody, she used to feel that they question her out. So this social withdrawal is sometimes happen to be in as a behavioral manifestation of normal grief. Absent-mindedness, especially newly bereaved people, may find themselves in acting in the absent-minded way of doing, like they sometimes even if you ask them questions, even if you ask them responses, we expect some sort of a response immediately, but even seems to be hearing us. Things may be ultimately harm them. Visiting places or carrying out object that reminds of this disease. Some people avoid the places which can trigger the painful feelings of the grief. Even dreams, another important thing that happens to be in grief. Dreams of a person who's dead, whose memories are haunting. Nightmares can happen sometimes. Suddenly waking up, and maybe the whole process might be recurring again and again, even after enough mourning has happened. Let's see what are the determinants of grief, and when are we going to? How are we going to? So, whatever I have spoken up to now, does it make sense, or do you need to have any sort of a clarity? We have been talking about the normal grief and its manifestations in different domains. Can somebody respond?
Sir, in physical sensation, you had mentioned about sense of depersonalization. Can you please explain me more on that?
Actually, this terminology is no more existing in depersonalization. Depersonalization, a person feels that their body is no more a kind of sensible one. You understand? They don't feel a kind of sensations in the human body. Um, that kind of a feeling where a person is no more able to understand whether he or even after the death of that particular person, still am I alive? That kind of a sensation. Is my presence itself is a question. Do you understand it? Am I really alive? Am I really alive even today? That person, other person who is close to me is dead, and am I the real person who is leaving, or that particular person is leaving? That kind of a confused stage where they don't feel the pain, they don't feel the sensations, they don't feel. They find even themselves they convert it into some other identity kind of thing. But usually, um, uh, this might even lead to a kind of yeah, you must have heard about it. Sometimes possessive disorders, possessions might happen, like in where we find dissociative features also, followed by a person says that I am the identity of that particular person, kind of thing. Got it?
So
Yes, sir.
can this
Yeah,
also be emotionally detaching oneself from,
exactly.
from grief and thinking that it is not happening to me but to some third person?
um, Not detaching, but it's a kind of fight against accepting a reality.
Okay, okay.
They don't want to accept the reality, therefore they wanted to keep going on with whatever is happening, because
Okay.
accepting reality becomes very difficult for them. If they accept the reality, then it becomes more painful. They don't want that pain to happen. Instead they wanted uh, uh, moving away from the pain.
Okay.
Then shall we go ahead with what are the determinants of grief? Okay, we'll see. When we meet the client, when we meet the students, these are the things should be in our mind. Who the person was, nature of the attachment. Who the person was means who the person who's died. Who's dead. Nature of the attachment, mode of the death. What does the mode of death make sense to sense? As I have told you, sudden death sometimes can be fatalistic, which can cause severe damages. Then historical antecedents, personality variable, and social variables, and concurrent stress. We'll see one by one. Yeah, these are things we should keep in mind, and then we will go ahead with the grief and depression. Are there any connection with the grief and depression? Grief is something which is no loss of self-esteem, guilt associated with some specific aspects of loss, prolonged and marked functions, and would look poor and empty. Next, depression. Depression can happen over the sense of commonly seen in most of the grief, and personally feels poor and empty. Yeah, we'll see. Adding on to that one, we will see how are we going to going with the task of mourning. Most important task of everyone who deal with the grief and grief ventilation is nothing but helping them to mourn. Okay, helping them to mourn. This is a tough task. This is the reason I have even told you yesterday that if suppose you are a person who is very weak in controlling your own emotions and understanding others emotions, and as well as um, if suppose you feel I cannot handle such kind of an emotions, this is sometimes um, a few I mean very clever people who are very interested in who are very interested in um, medical fields sometimes do not really find themselves suitable that particular profession is because of one reason. When they find the blood, when they see the blood, immediately they collapse. In similar fashion, even in the field of psychology also, even in the field of counseling also, this is a major task for us. If suppose we are not very strong, then it is difficult for us to accept the other person's emotions. So mourning is, as I told you, mourning is the most important task that one has to do it. So let's see what are the tasks that we can really do it. First, to accept the reality of loss is to come full face with the reality that the person is dead and will not return. Denying the fact of loss can vary from slight distortion to full-blown delusions. Here, as I told you, why are they denying the death? We have just mentioned. Why do they deny the test? Because they don't want to accept that particular reality. And if they do not accept the reality for longer phase, that means it become full-born delusion that a particular person is still alive, closer to my heart, closer to my space. I can see them, I can hear him, I can feel him. He's sitting close to me, he's traveling with me. That kind of thing definitely become a delusion after some phases of grief, phases of uh, 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 phases after death of a particular person. Fully completing this task uh, takes time. Traditional rituals like a funeral helps towards acceptance of this particular person. This is a reason. Even if a person, we know it very sure that person can break down very badly, it's better show and expose this particular person's bereavement process through the ritualizations, including funerals. Second task of mourning will be in the task of mourning, second task will be to work through the pain of grief. Definitely, grief has its own pain. It's necessary to work through the pain, or it will be or it will manifest itself through some symptoms of behavioral uh, uh, ab- um, apparent behaviors. Essentially, such kind of the bereaved person to go through this particular pain in order to get through the grief, get the grief work done. Because the grieving, if not done properly, then definitely the pain of grief will not be moving out. So as soon as the burial is over, if suppose the very closest person starts smiling, it means definitely this process has not been accomplished. Next, third task will be to adjust an environment which the disease is missing, depending on the relationship or the role played by the disease. Attempt to fulfill the disease role may fail, leading to lower self-esteem. The expected outcome will be nothing but the progress towards the recognition of his changed circumstances by redefining his goals or else state of suspended growth. So in the third task, we allow the particular person uh, to uh, to adjust with the. So we cannot modify the entire environment. Modification of environment may not be an easiest task always. So instead of modification of environment, we try to make this person to adjust with the environment where the disease has, where the disease, from where the death has really happened, and reducing the feeling of missing, reducing the dependency to that particular relationship, and also taking up the additional roles that particular person whose disease might have been taking in the past, and also to boost up the self-esteem of this particular person, and thereby outcome is nothing but progress towards recognition and its changed circumstances. Task 4, emotionally relocate the deceased and move with the life. Uh, One never loses memories of a significant relationship. Because in this particular task, we are trying to help the client to emotionally relocate the deceased and move on with the life. Task is not to given up for the relationship, so it's not like we cannot say that we cannot say exactly that the relationship will definitely end up. Relationship does not end up actually. Instead of ending up the relationship, the deceased might be relationship is otherwise we are trying to emotionally relocating the relationship with this particular person and the losses of memory. Mourning ends with when mourner no longer reactivate the representations of the dead in daily living. This is where the actual mourning ends up, which means there are the last sentence is very clear. Mourning ends when mourner no longer reactivate the representations of the dead in the daily living. Why people fail to? Let's see. Is this task very clear to us regarding mourning? For us in morning, does it make any sense, or do we need to make any sort of explanation?
Sir, can I ask one thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Sir, it's so acceptable about the task of mourning and other things. This is more related to the person, relative, a friend, somebody who is at home.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining the situation where I have to see my students at the workplace. So at workplace, I think all these process will be a different case because the acceptance of the reality or the pain to walk through the pain of grief, adjustment to the environment, and emotional relocation of the everything happens when we think of somebody at home or in their own position, and then we are addressing the grief.
Yeah, ma'am.
But what we are going to do is for our faculty who has lost people, our own faculty is not there now. We are going to see them, their people, and how we are going to manage these people at workplace. Because we are facing one kind of a situation where in our department, our very own lab assistant
Yes,
is
sir.
very,
Yes,
very
sir. Who's this, sir?
Hello.
Yes.
so very own faculty have lost dear ones, and we've lost our lab assistant, and his wife is also working here. So at workplace, how are we going to manage this task of mourning? Because we are also in the mourning process of mourning.
This will I will just come up. I mean, I can understand your emotions. I can understand your queries. I will definitely come to that one at the end of the day. I mean, end of this presentation. Definitely, I will come to how are we going to address the issues with regarding the persons who are trying to provide grief ventilation. How are we going to balance ourselves, and how are we going to address these things in ground level? As you have already mentioned, I'm very happy to hear this kind of queries because it's practically based. Um, we need to know it very clearly that one-to-one meeting is an absolute necessity. An absolute necessity. We need to talk to them. We need to listen to them. We need to have a person who can really listen to them. And this task is assigned to them individually. If you are not able to, suppose as a person heading this particular department, if you are also a person who is mourning even today, if you are also a person who is undergoing the grief today, you are the first person to take the grief therapy. And after your grieving is done, then you are supposed to help. When we are in an utter clutter, we cannot provide therapies or solutions to the person who is in need of therapy. Am I making sense? Hello.
Yes, sir. But I think in that way, a one-to-one or peer,
Yeah.
what to say, condition cannot be there. Is it so, sir? What do you say?
Two ways. You can put them into group sessions. In grieving, it can also be put into. See, you must have heard about the group dynamism. Group has its own beauty, rather than individualization of individual issues. You imagine you imagine if we have a group of people who has a similar problem, they come together, they talk together, they ventilate together, they emotionally express issues together. It means they find themselves. There is also another person who is equally worried about same situations as I am facing. Do you understand? So they find a kind of affiliation, that group is there, I am there, I am the part of that particular group as well. So group interventions can easily work upon if suppose you find one-to-one interventions are not working. So in such cases, it's better gather them together, uh, talk to them casually to start with the session, and then progress about, let them ventilate, let's hear, and also let's hear the stories of the other people who have been stressed about, who have been hearing about, and also maybe about the deceased person. We will have to overhear about their memories. So memory recollection, sometimes there will be ventilation, sometimes there will be which is otherwise called as emotional outburst, cries, anger, frustrations, etc., etc. We may have to hear it from them altogether. Yeah, this is possible, and sometimes rather than the individualized individual targeting, when such kind of a larger number of groups are already there grieving, definitely the group work will can help. Okay, Will, I think, ma'am, your question will remain in my heart until I complete my session, because sometimes the session might give you some picture about how to get ahead with this. Okay, we'll see why people fail to grieve. Any other, if no queries, we'll go ahead. First, relationship factors, circumstantial factors, historical factors, personality factors, and social factors. We'll see one by one. One, relationship factors: unexpressed hostility and frequent hinders people from adequately grieving. Sometimes death may reopen residual feelings of old wounds. Next, in this, the victim often suffers from low self-esteem and self-blaming, which can lead to the complicated grief. So I told you already, complicated grief is the chronic grief, which can be very difficult, which is very difficult to address altogether. So relationship factors, relationship with a particular person who died, might be one of the major reasons why a person is not grieving. Next, we'll see circumstantial. There are certain specific circumstances that make it difficult for a person to bring grief to a satisfactory conclusion. It may be multiple losses, such as occurring in an earthquake, as I have already told you yesterday, a repeated death of a person in a family, or maybe multiple members of the family is dead, and he finds no more grieving is a necessity. No more grieving is possible. We're coming across to historical factors, such as people of the past history of complicated grief have higher probability of having it again. So people had already undergone severe grief in the past. They have also will definitely have a probability of having it again and again. People with the history of depression and illness are risky population with may lead to they might develop a kind of complicated grief, which is chronic grief. There is an evidence that persons experiencing complicated grief reactions felt insecure about their childhood and were ambivalent towards the mother. Last point is clear. There is a evidence that the persons experiencing complicated grief reactions felt insecure in their childhood and are ambivalent towards their mother. Let's see now the personality. Those personalities do not tolerate dependency feeling. You understand this one? A person whose personality do not tolerate dependency feeling will have a difficulty in grieving and self-concepts. We'll see the social factors which prevent the grieving. If the loss of a socially unspeakable, for example, suicidal death, Next, social fact. We are never happy to hear about the suicidal death of in a locality, and it's finding very difficult. Family will find it so difficult to speak about the suicidal death also. Social factors that complicate a grief reaction happens when loss is socially neglected, means person is around, which acts as the loss never happened. Absence of social support network. When a person feel that my social network support system is absolutely bad enough, even if I weep, even if I cry, there are nobody who is going to help me and support. Therefore, they find difficulty in grieving. Okay, then let's see how the grief goes wrong. I think from that session, if there are no clarifications, then we will move ahead. If there is any clarification required, you can immediately switch on the mic and intervene. We will see how grief goes wrong. We are talking about now the chronic grief reaction. Okay, it's one of the most excessive in duration and comes. The person undergoing such griefs are very much aware of the fact that they are not getting through the process of mourning. In this, the therapist or client has to assess which takes the grief are not being resolved and why. So I told you already, grief is normal, but if the grief is prolonged, it's chronic. If the grief is prolonged and it's chronic, which means we need to assess why the grieving has not been resolved and what's the reason. Then the intervention is to be planned. As ma'am has asked me previously the question, everybody is in grief, everybody is in problem. Grief is normal. If the grief is normal, then let them grieve. But if the grief is continuous for a longer phases, when it become a chronic and it's nowhere ending up, then the intervention is to be planned, resolution is to be sought. You understand? I think it makes sense to you. What are the major, let's say how delayed grief reactions happen. This person might find emotional reactions to the loss and not sufficient for the loss. I mean, there is no, but it is not sufficient for the loss. The person might experience the symptoms of grief over and subsequent and immediate loss, but intensity of grieving is excessive. Exaggerated grief reaction. In this, the person experiences intensification of normal grief reaction, feel overwhelmed, resorts to the maladaptive behavior. It might even including psychiatric issues. It might develop into psychiatric issues, maybe even depression, substance abuse, anxiety, etc. Even sometimes a person might lead to manic features. These things we have seen is yesterday. Yeah. Let's see how to now us in the ground level people who are working. First thing we should understand how to diagnose the complicated grief. Close one, person being interviewed cannot speak of the deceased without experiencing intense and fresh grief. Second, some relative minor event triggers of intense grief reaction. Very minute issues sometimes can immediately burst out this person's grief reaction. Third, themes of loss comes up in a clinical interview. It's important to listen to them and watch the possibility of unresolved grief. As a person sits in front of you, continuously cries when we start speaking about this particular person, even after 1 year of particular person's bereavement, continuously mourning, face is depressed, person is frustrated, anger. I mean, even the eye contact is very difficult. Such persons, such kind of we get feeling of this person is in grief till. Next, clues for someone who preserves the environment of the deceased, just as they were death occurred, maybe harboring an unresolved grief reaction. So yeah, there are possibilities. They don't want to give up. They don't want to let go. They don't want to forget about. They hold on things which are very environment in connection with the deceased. Next, physical symptoms such as physical symptoms like those deceased experienced before the death occurs annually around them. So anniversary of death and such kind of holidays which have been spent by them can be a reminder to them to have more complicated grief. Q6, those make a radical changes in their lifestyle, followed by death, including exclude from the friendship, family members, maybe experiencing unresolved grief. Clue 7, long history of subclinical depression. It's not clinical depression. Subclinical depression is not an easy thing to understand it also. Maybe finding it so difficult to longer phase of interaction is required for subclinical depression to clearly understand it forefront for a therapist or a mental health professional to address it as well. Compulsion to intimate the death person comes from the need for compensate with the loss, identifying oneself with the deceased. Use 9, many times self-destructive impulses like attempting to suicide, attempting cutting the hands, etc. Then uncountable sadness occurring. Accused 10, uncountable sadness occurring at the certain times. Next, phobia. Phobia of illness or death often. Then illness that took illness, especially specific illness that took the deceased away. So these are the diagnostic area that we have been addressing as of now. Now I will move on to, if no clarification required, then we will move on to the how grief counseling is typically can be initiated. If you are skilled enough, if you are not skilled enough, the better one. If suppose you have diagnosed, or whatever I have spoken up to now is the diagnostic areas. So whatever the diagnosis is done, you know that particular person, is it a normal grieving? Is it abnormal? Is it chronic? Is it something, whatever the category that I have spoken to you, if they are falling into, if suppose out of all these evaluations, you know this particular person requiring an immediate intervention, then the grief counseling is to be initiated or to be referred. Okay, if you're skillful enough, better initiate the grief counseling. If not, better go for references. So these are the reference, the introduction towards grief counseling. Loss, this I have already told. I don't want to get along with this one, the theoretical one. Grief counseling and grief therapy, these are the two techniques from which a client can easily benefit out, helping the people facilitate uncomplicated and normal grief to healthy adaptation to the task of mourning within a reasonable time frame. This is the major purpose of grief counseling. While grief therapy goes with people with abnormal or complicated grief reactions, which might require maybe at least a year of duration of strict follow-up. Let's see the goals of counseling: increasing the reality of loss, death with deal with both emotional and behavioral pain, helping to overcome various impediments to readjust after the loss, helping to find the ways to maintain bond with the deceased while feeling comfortable reinvesting the life. At risk, what are the risks of? Now we should also know the risk factors, which are we should have the assessment or risk factors associated with the bereavement. We should know what kind of the age, whether he is young or old. Then what are the poor social support system, highly dependent on the deceased, ambivalent relationship with the deceased, cultural background prevents expressing grief, death, loss, income, relocation, difficulty in handling the children, past history of depression. Many may appear to cope with the well initially feeling to self-approach or anger. So let's see the principles. Definitely, these are very systematic. A certain sense of unreality did not really seen. First, grief task completion awareness. Death will not. First thing that in the grief counseling, the very first thing that you should make sure that death will never. A person who is dead is never going to come back. Accept this before dealing with the emotional impact. Help the survivors to talk about the loss, visiting the graveside, because that will help them to understand the reality and confront with the reality, and patient listening. Then help the survivors to identify the experience of identify and experience a feeling. Many feelings may not be recognizable. Sometimes they might cause pain and unpleasantness in the in the particular person. However, maybe degree may be varying in effective resolution. Some feelings that are not problematic to survivors are like maybe anger, anxiety, and helplessness, and personal death and awareness, guilt, might be even coming out of helplessness and loneliness, and important to the express sadness and experiencing. So these are the things that we have to target it while introducing the sessions. Assisting without disease, um, facilitating ability to leave, use the problem solving approach, loss of a decision maker, because sometimes the head of the family is dead, decision maker is gone off, then a decision maker become the second person who is who may be grieving. Then loss of a sexual partner, discouragement from making major life changing decisions too soon after the death. um, After the death is happened, immediately asking for immediate changes of life changing, and become that is very difficult for that particular person. Help mind meaning in the loss. Some who cannot find the answer, as I told you, we have been seeing things. What are the questions they ask it? They find difficulty in answering, become resolved in activities related to the manner that took the loved one. Some losses challenges a person's sense in him or herself, challenging the notion that he or she is he or she is worthy enough, and not into a low self-esteem. Facilitate emotional relocation, especially don't hesitate feeling that no one can ever fill the space of the deceased. Of course, it is true that no one can ever fill the deceased. It's a right to fill the void with a new relationship. Of course, we need to move out. Some people may jump into new relationship. This is also to be very carefully taken into care. Provide time to grieve. This is the most important one. 3 months after the demises, first anniversary, holidays, critical. These are the time definitely grief can reoccur. But if the reoccurrence of grief is happening, this is normal. If the reoccurrence is happening, normal. But if the grief continues without, throughout the year, without any sort of break, without any sort of stop, which means it is fatalistically problematic. Interpret normal behavior. If suppose hallucination, heightened distractibility, and preoccupations with the deceased can be part of a normal grief. We should always speak to them. When the client says that I can hear that particular person's voice, I can see him, I can feel him, which means tell them this is normal in normal grief. And quite often, quite common for people to feel that they are going crazy, particularly those who have not sustained a major loss ever before. Allow an individual differences. Of course, every individual has their own variations in interpersonal variability, in variations in the intensity of effective reactions. Family members may not be able to understand this unless we counsel them. Defense mechanism. Examine the defense mechanism. This is very theoretically sounded. Greatest risk is for the bereaved, those who are especially recovering from alcoholics, strong family histories of alcoholism, inquires about any drug use, active emotional coping. So these are the defense mechanisms through which a person tries to cope it after loss happens to be. We should be very careful about what are the defense mechanism and coping styles they have adopted, and ask them what are the coping you have it, and we should allow them to have a better emotional coping, better and effective emotional coping that is possible. Identifying pathology and refer. Sometimes, in the counseling session, we find these are the areas that I cannot address easily. Maybe there is chronicity, there are prolonged grief, then I need to refer them immediately. Useful techniques. These are the major useful techniques which are being used. We'll see. One is memory box. Keeping up the memory box of a person who's dead, writing out diaries, drawing of particular persons. So these are the simple techniques which can be adopted. Even yesterday, I asked you to writing the fill the blanks, fill the blank, fill whatever is from. I mean, complete the sentences. Yesterday I have asked, gave you a task. This is possible, and again, you can even ask the person to write a goodbye letter to this person who has been deceased of. Yeah. Does that make any sense to you? If not, if that is okay, then we will move on to grief therapy. It's of course, grief therapy is a very highly skilled personal work. May not be possible for anyone who has not undergone this particular therapeutic training. So indications are when prolonged grief happens, delayed grief happens, exaggerated grief responses, and grief manifestations of some masked somatic or behavioral symptoms. So these are the major goals: conflict resolution, resolve the conflicts and conflicts of separation, then better adaptation to the death, then therapeutic therapies provide for social support and necessary as well as to give the patient permission to grieve. Procedures: rule out physical illness. First and foremost thing, when we adopt grief therapy, we will rule out any sort of physical diseases. Then contract and establishing an alliances, therapeutic alliance, which is otherwise called as therapeutic alliances. Revive memories of the deceased. Talk about the deceased person and build the groundwork for positive memories. Then we'll come across to the assessment. This is very important in helping in therapy. I just rushed up the therapy session because I'm sure that therapy session is not something which is easy for many of you to take up unless you are a practicing therapist. Yeah. Can I just move on to the slides? If you can just quickly go through it. Okay, here sometimes it is also necessary. Even while you are working with a person who has grief, better ask them to have some sort of homework, maybe even diary keeping. Homework can even in the systematic counseling session also, it can sometimes help you. Sometimes a person who is grieving may not be able to come up with whatever the issues that a person is really experiencing. It might be possible through diary keeping, or maybe ask them to write whatever the innate feeling that they have in their mind can come out the next day while you are meeting. Sometimes this diary is a real help for everyone who is dealing with the grief and grieving to understand that particular person's innate issues than whatever the verbatism that comes out through the therapy session. Yeah, then we'll have to evaluate every result of whether therapy, whether it is counseling. 1, 3 types of changes are expected out of a therapy or counseling. 1, subjective experience. 2, behavioral changes. Then symptom relief. There are scales for that, like Hog and Grief inventory of complicated grief. This will definitely help us to know how the grief is happening. I mean, what are the intensity of grief, and maybe midway intervention during the time of after once you started the therapy or counseling, you can even independently assess this person's grief through grief inventory or complicated grief inventory, so that you'll find whether the score is reducing or increasing, or is it remaining static. Or at the end of the sessions, when you see that, when you can even reevaluate using any sort of this kind of inventory to make sure that the person has at least come to a particular situation where he or she can stand without a professional support. And now I think as one of you have raised the question of how to handle counselors on grief. Grief, the mistake, that's a spelling mistake. Bereavement in the others also touches the counselor personally in 3 ways. 1, awareness of our own losses. Then counselors on feared losses. Third, one's on personal death awareness. So these are the major three things that can that will be in our mind, because as I told, as you may be the people who have been experiencing grief, you may be persons who have lost their close affiliated persons in the department. Thus, exploring one's own history of losses, loss of historical history questionnaire to be prepared of. So we should be very much aware that grieving, unless personally happened, we cannot help the other person to grieve. But obviously, when as a counselor, as a person who supports in grief interventions, we are also vulnerable for that. Then you should also remember that professional burnouting is a very important one, which is to be addressed. Under too much of stress, that is badly. Sometimes people may be under too much of stress and it's badly managed. There are three guidelines: know your own personal limitations, can avoid burnout, practicing active grieving, know how to reach out for help. Okay, so if you cannot manage yourself, it's better you will take the therapy and sessions. There is nothing wrong in it. Sometimes online teaching or methods, even if you take YouTube videos, even if you look at look at various kinds of things, it might not be helping you. Take the professional support, professional help. There is nothing wrong in it. Even if people say that this particular person has taken therapy session, does not mean that you are a weak person. You are a strong person to take the therapy and move ahead. Yes, yeah, I have done with. I think now the floor is open for discussions. If there is anything that I have not addressed, as you people have come up with, let's now go ahead with clarifications. And yeah, I wish everybody respond quickly and ask positive questions and clarifications, because you people from tomorrow will have to meet your own students in helping and supporting them in coming out of their grief, coming out of their stress. At least the session, what I intend, nothing but to understand the issues with them and also try to address them. What are the possibility that you have it?
Sir,
Yeah.
in our case, the grieving people, they won't come to us. Students will not come to us and say that we are in such a position and we need something. It is not like people going to the counselor. Our case will be different. In sense, we will be the people who have to extend our counseling to the students. We have to look for the students who be in grief, or we need to go to them. So in that way, they might or might not be responsible, or I mean, what to say, they might not open up. But we need to be with them in their grief, make them comfortable there in another place, workplace. And it is a different situation. It's like that. The person who is want of counseling will not be coming to the counselor, but the counselor has to go to the student or faculty or something. In that way, how we have to extend our help? Should we do, or should
Yeah,
we have to
Caroline, I
just
will
leave
just
it?
to make a clarification on whatever you have spoken to me now. Remember, counseling will not be effective if a person is approached to that particular person directly. You must remember that counseling is something, a technique, something which is effective. Therapies and counseling is effective when the client directly approaches. If the client is not approaching, suppose if a person is an alcoholic, he doesn't understand alcoholism as a major concern and major problem. Sometimes the person may not be able to reach to a counselor or therapist. We'll have to work upon motivate this particular person, understand and assess the situation, and we are sure that we know that particular person requires support. Might be better, this particular person might be better if suppose the counseling sessions he or she undergoes, then definitely we have to see that this particular person's problem is addressed. Okay. So as you have already mentioned, nobody will reach to you, nobody will come to you, nobody will be ready to open up. So but at least you know the students over the time. Obviously I know it, over this last 1 or 2 years, 1.5 years, you people are managing the more classes on based on online. Offline classes have not been started in most of the colleges, I know it clearly. However, it's better put kind of a checklist, or maybe circulate some kind of you can ask the Department of Social Work even to ask the social work department to make a kind of online study kind of thing, or every department to connect with some sort of an assessment of students stress level, grief level, issues, etc through a kind of particular scale. So at the end of the day, you get a scale, you get a result, this many students have this issue. So then we need to understand who are the students of this issue. Maybe two things it will help you. In a particular department, this many students have the issue. Second thing, these are the students who really requires intervention. Subjectively you will understand, objectively you have a document. Okay, then next step will be to either you people address this one in common, in a very layman perspective, or take a kind of lead in addressing their issues as a group. Maybe you can provide them kind of an online sessions to them, whoever who have the issues, and asking them to attend this particular sessions to come out of this particular problem that they are facing. Next thing, once they are physically meeting together, arrange at least 1 day training or workshop for them to come out from their stress related issues. Maybe we cannot just exactly say that grief or anything of that. So instead, stress ventilation or stress management training or something of that sort, with the help of social work department or some allied departments or such. So if you are really working for this, there are solutions, there are ways, there are means. Does it make any sense?
Yes, sir. We have the student counselor. I think through the counseling hub, we can provide such thing. But the thing is, physically, if we are meeting, it's a very different case. And online way, it's quite difficult to identify people who are in grief. That's the biggest problem.
That's where I'm telling. Maybe a kind of Google Doc you can develop. Send every student. They might be having an Gmail communication, right? Mail communication, right? So ask them to fill the form and send you back, so that you will understand. Ask them to do it genuinely, not to collectively do it. So they will. Then you might get the responses. As you get the responses, if you evaluate, it will be an easy thing for you to say that at least to the department or to the college authorities, this and this are the issues really happening. As you have already mentioned, there are issues. But if I ask you the question, how many of your students have the issue? How much intensity the issue is, you might be finding it difficult to answer to me either, right? This is where the assessment in detail performer is a necessity.
Sir, I have another understanding of addressing the grief. Sometimes they say, no, sir, if somebody is in a grief, don't talk about that directly. You just avoid those conversations avoid making making them to what to say revisit those previous situations or something. Avoid that and give another platform for them to think and do and other things. Is it a good
These
way
are
of
two ways. These are two ways, Caroline, and I can understand this thing. There are debates on this particular topic, even when we talk about the disaster management mitigations, psychosocial provision of support to them. We do not encourage them to repeatedly speak this incident to anybody. In fact, because recollection of these incidents, these major casualties that's happened to them, will definitely a very traumatizing experience to them. So such traumatizing experience, we need to have a closure. I just told about asking them to visit it. It's like when the grieving has not been completed, when they do not really understand, come to a confrontation that this particular person is dead. Okay, so only for such kind of things, I'd say that visiting a graveyard may be helpful to them to realize that person is no more alive. Got my point clear? And if otherwise, stressful things, it's better not to recollect it again and again. Rumination over stress definitely can be a fatalistic one. Therefore, we should be very, very careful in dealing with such kind of repeated exposures of their own life's traumas. Yeah. Any other queries, clarifications?
So we have some. Am I bothering you, sir?
No,
Asking
no, 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 no.
doubts.
I'm happy to hear you. I'm very happy to hear you.
Sir, we have some situation like husband and wife working in the same institution, same
Institution,
subject,
department.
same place, and the partner is lost. We have such a situation in our college, in our department. How to deal with that, sir? If it is a
So
different
this is
workplace,
where,
different thing is right, but we have a situation where both of them are there in the same area, and one person is lost due to corona and other things. So how to deal with that?
ma'am, this is where I think we need to figure out whether the other person who is alive, is he or she has really problem. Grieving is normal, right? Let them grieve. Let them grieve for at least 4 to 6 months. I mean, 3 to 6 months. Let them grieve. If they still find it so difficult to adjust with the cope with the particular situations where they have been working together, uh, as I have already told you, if you establish kind of real issues happening in terms of behavior, in terms of psychological issues, in terms of their physical condition, in terms of their coping mechanism, or whatsoever, whatever I just mentioned to you just before. If suppose you find in any of these core areas, they are finding it or they have failed to live with the expectations, they find it so difficult to coping with, then definitely the intervention is necessary. Otherwise, if suppose this incident happened and if you try to relocate this particular person to somewhere else, like environmental modification, it may not be working out. They might even find it much more traumatizing because they might be choosing to live a life where my husband has been working, where my wife was working. And I love to have these particular memories. Memories are sweet. Sometimes grief memories are sweet also. Remember, grief is, though we say that bereavement is a bad experience, sometimes this is also good. In one or other way, I heard the people used to say that I live here with the sweet memories of my husband who is dead. I leave and lie. I This person has been living in this particular room. I sit on the chair which he sat. So there are positive, there are negative impacts of grief, bereavement, death of a person. So let's see whether it is making any sort of a negative impact, whether it is making a positive impact. If it is making a negative impact, help the client, help the person to come out through either through what or through ventilation, or maybe you can ask them to undergo a phase of therapy or counseling from an expertised person. Refer them. Very important skill in handling grief is nothing but referral. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Any other queries, questions?
Sir,
Yeah.
so what should be our role as a co-worker or a friend to help the grieving person? Like sometimes we think of helping, sometimes we think that whatever we say would help them, but it may have a negative impact. Or what to avoid, what to say or what not to say, or what should be our actions, just in a very informal way, sir.
Okay, Srilada, are you mentioning about you are working as a?
No, sir, I am a student.
Okay, fine,
Because
Srilada. I will explain you. Thank you. Just can you put off your mic? Okay, fine. Srilada, I'm happy to listen to you this way. I mean, your query is a very important one. Remember, we are not expertised. We are not expertised in every field. Second thing, it's better not to intervene a person, even if you are a best therapist, even if you are an expert person, even if you are a best surgeon. Better not to do surgery for your own wife. Better not to do a therapeutic intervention for your own relative. Better not to do a therapeutic intervention for your own close friend. Though they might be expecting, but tell them very polite. You can listen to them, actively hear them, listen to them, not judgmentally. You can be with them. I mean, you can compassionate to them. You can be with them. You can feel. You can make them feel that you are very close to him or her. But never ever try to provide psychological first aid to them, because that will be not helpful. Sometimes it's better reference. Better refer them out. Okay, send them to a better person who can really provide them, because in principle sometimes we might break confidentiality in case when it encounters with uh, when it is very close affiliated person is taken therapy from a person who is very close to them. Got point clear, Srilata?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Anything? Nothing more?
I think there's no more questions, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation and to like taking the time of your busy schedule to talk to us about grief and types of grief, and also in ways we can help our peers, our friends, and our co-workers in their grieving process. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And formal announcement: we have our validatory program at today evening 5 p.m. and the link will be provided by 4 o'clock. So I request all of you to kindly attend the validatory program by 5 p.m. today. Thank you. And also, please fill the feedback form to receive certificates. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.